Welcome, crew, guys, gals, ghouls, friends, fiends, foes, whoever may be listening beyond the omniverse this evening. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, July 28th. Monday, July 29th, for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining me this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. I'm so glad you could join us. If you're listening live right now, you may be listening to us on Spreaker.com under We Are Paradox Media. You can also find us on KPNL Radio, which you can find at KPNL Radio at kpnl-db.com. You can also find us on eTalk Radio, which you can find at etalk.tv/radio. You'd think by the millionth time I would have that all memorized, but alas, I still have to look at my notes at times. If you want to listen to me in your free time, whether you're working it or working out, just feel free to tune in to me, like wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you don't mind, mosey on over to our YouTube. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Like any video that you've watched or listened to, and leave us any comments, whether good or bad. Just let us know. I don't know why my screen is just glitching out. It's doing this like flashy thing. But anyways, let's carry on. If you like to watch as well as listen, you can find us on Twitch as well as YouTube and Facebook under We Are Paradox Media. So tonight we are doing Storytime with me, TessaTNT, and we are on the third book of our Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and this one is called Life, the Universe, and Everything. So I'm really excited to get into this one. I don't know, I really love this book series. I was tempted to buy it, but how many times am I going to read this series? And it seems like the further you get into the series, like the smaller the books and the print gets, so you might need to break out some spectacles. Wow, there's a lot of books. The Salmon of Doubt. Wow. Alright, let's get down to it. So chapter 1. The regular early morning yell of horror was the sound of Arthur Dent waking up and suddenly remembering where he was. It wasn't just the cave was cold. It wasn't just that it was damp and smelly. It was that the cave was in the middle of Islington, and there wasn't a bus due for 2 million years. Time is the worst place, so to speak, to get lost in, as Arthur Dent could testify, having been lost in both time and space a good deal. At least being lost in space kept you busy. He was stranded on prehistoric Earth as the result of a complex sequence of events that had involved his being alternately blown up and insulted in more bizarre regions of the galaxy than he had ever dreamed existed. And though life had now turned very, very, very quiet, he was still clearing junkie. He hadn't been blown up now for 5 years. He had hardly seen anyone since he and Ford Prefect had parted company 4 years previously, and he hadn't been insulted in all that time either, except just once. It happened on a spring evening about 2 years ago. He was returning to his cave just a little after dusk when he became aware of lights flashing eerily through clouds. He turned and stared with hope suddenly clamoring through his heart. Rescue escape? The castaway? Impossible dream? A ship? And as he watched, as he stared in wonder and excitement, a long silver ship descended through the warm evening air quietly without fuss, its long legs unlocked in a smooth ballet of technology. It alighted gently on the ground, and what little hum it had generated died away as if lulled by the evening calm. A ramp extended itself, and light streamed out. A tall figure appeared silhouetted in the hatchway. It walked down the ramp and stood in front of Arthur. "You're a jerk, Dent," it said simply. It was alien, very alien. It had a peculiar alien tallness, a peculiar alien flattened head, peculiar slitty little alien eyes, extravagantly draped golden robes with a peculiar alien color design, and pale green-gray alien skin that had that lustrous sheen about it that most green races can acquire only with plenty of exercise and very expensive soap. Arthur boggled at it. It gazed lovely at him. Arthur's first sensations of hope and trepidation had instantly been overwhelmed by astonishment, and all sorts of thoughts were battling for the use of his vocal cords at this moment. "What?" he said. He added. "Wahoo?" he managed finally to say, and lapsed into a frantic kind of silence. He was feeling the effects of not having said anything to anybody for as long as he could remember. The alien creature frowned briefly and consulted what appeared to be some species of clipboard that it was holding in its thin, little spindly alien hand. "Arthur Dent," it said. Arthur nodded helplessly. "Arthur Philip Dent," persuaded the alien in a kind of efficient yeah, confirmed Arthur. "You're a jerk," repeated the alien. "A complete knee-biter." The creature nodded to itself, made a peculiar alien check on its clipboard, and turned briskly back toward its ship. Said Arthur desperately. "Don't give me that," snapped the alien. It marched up the ramp, through the hatchway, and disappeared into its ship. The ship stilled itself. It started to make a low throbbing hum. "Hey!" shouted Arthur, and started to run helplessly towards it. "Wait a minute," he called. "What is this? What? Wait a minute!" The ship rose as if shedding its weight like a cloak falling to the ground, and hovered briefly. It swept strangely up into the evening sky. It passed up through the clouds, illuminating them briefly, and then was gone, leaving Arthur alone in an immensity of land dancing, a helplessly tiny little dance. "What?" he screamed. "What? What? Hey, what? Come back here and say that!" He jumped and danced until his legs trembled, and shouted till his lungs rasped. There was no answer from anyone. There was no one to hear him or speak to him. The alien ship was already thundering toward the upper reaches of the atmosphere, on its way out into the appalling void that separates the very few things there are in the universe from one another. It's funny that it just showed up to tell him that he was a jerk. It's like, what the heck? The alien ship was already thundering toward the upper reaches. Its occupant, the alien, with an expensive complex and complexion, leaned back in its single seat. His name was Wowback, infinitely prolonged. He was a man with a purpose. Not a very good purpose, as he would have been the first to admit, but it was at least a purpose, and it did at least keep him on the move. Wowbagger, the infinitely prolonged, was indeed is one of the universe's very small number of immortal beings. Most of those who are born immortal instinctively know how to cope with it, but Wowbagger was not one of them. Indeed, he had come to hate them, the load of serene bastards. He had had his immortality inadvertently thrust upon him by the unfortunate accident with an irrational particle accelerator, a liquid lunch, and a pair of rubber hands. The precise details of the accident are not important because no one has ever managed to duplicate the exact circumstances under which it happened. And many people have ended up looking very silly, or dead, or both, just trying. Wildbagger closed his eyes in a grim and weary expression, but some light jazz on the ship's stereo, and reflected that he could have made it if it hadn't been for Sunday afternoons. He really could have done. To begin with, it was fun. He had a ball, living dangerously, taking risks. cleaning up on high-yield long-term investments, and just generally outliving the hell out of everybody. In the end, it was the Sunday afternoons he couldn't cope with, and that terrible listlessness that starts to set in at about 2:55, when you know you've taken all the baths that you can usefully take that day. But however hard you stare at any given paragraph in the newspaper, you will never actually read it or use the revolutionary new pruning technique it describes. And that as you stare at the clock, the hands will move relentlessly onto 4 o'clock, and you will enter the long dark tea time of the soul. So things began to pall at him. The merry smiles he used to wear at other people's funerals began to fade. He began to despise the universe in general, and everybody in it in particular. This was the point at which he conceived his purpose, the thing that would drive him on, and which, as far as he could see, would drive him on forever. It was this: he would insult the universe. That is, he would insult everybody in it, individually, personally, one by one, and this was the thing he really decided to grit his teeth over, in alphabetical order. When people protested to him, as they sometimes had done, but the plan was not merely misguided, but actually impossible because of the number of people being born and dying all the time, he would merely fix them with a steely look and say, "A man can dream, can't he?" And so he had started out. He equipped a spaceship that was built to last with a computer capable of handling all the data processing involved in keeping track of the entire population of the known universe and working out the horrifically complicated routes involved. The ship fled through the inner orbits of the Sol Star system, preparing to slingshot around the sun and fling itself out into interstellar space. "Computer," he said. "Here," yipped the computer. "Where next?" "Computing that." Wildbagger gazed for a moment at the fantastic jewelry of the night, the billions of tiny diamond worlds that dusted the infinite darkness with light. Everyone, every single one, was on his itinerary. Most of them he would be going to millions of times over. He imagined for a moment that his itinerary connected all the dots in the sky like a child's numbered dots puzzle. He hoped that from some vantage point in the universe, it might be seen to spell a very, very rude word. The computer beeped tunelessly to indicate that it had finished its calculations. "Florfanga," it said. It beeped. "Fourth row to Florfanga system," it continued. It beeped again. "Estimated journey time, 3 weeks," it continued further. It beeped again. "There to meet with a small slug," it beeped, "of the genus Arthur Philodin. I believe," it added, after a slight pause during which it beeped, "that you had decided to call it a brainless brat." Wildbagger grunted. He watched the majesty of the creation outside his window for a moment or two. "I think I'll take a nap," he said, and then added, "What network areas are we going to be passing through in the next few hours?" The computer beeped. "Cosmovit? ThinkPix? The home brain box?" it said, and beeped. "Any movies I haven't seen 30,000 times already?" "No." "There's Angst in Space. You've only seen that 33,517 times." "Wake me for the second reel." Computer beeped. "Sleep well," it said. The ship sped on through the night. Meanwhile, on Earth, it began to rain heavily, and Arthur Dent sat in his cave and had one of the most rotten evenings of his entire life, thinking of things he could have said to the alien and swatting flies, which also had a rotten evening. The next day, he made himself a pouch of rabbit skin because he thought it would be useful to keep things in. Chapter 2. This morning, 2 years later than that, was sweet and fragrant. As he emerged from the cave, he called home until he could think of a better name for it or find a better cave. Though his throat was sore again from his early morning yell of horror, he was suddenly in a terrifically good mood. He wrapped his dilapidated dressing gown tightly around him and beamed at the bright morning. The air was clear and scented. The breeze flitted lightly through the tall grass around his cave. The birds were chirping to one another. The butterflies were flitting about prettily, and the whole of nature seemed to be conspiring to be as pleasant as it possibly could. It wasn't all the pastoral delights that were making Arthur feel so cheery, though. He had just had a wonderful idea about how to cope with the terrible lonely isolation, the nightmares, the failure of all his attempts at horticulture, and the sheer futurelessness and futility of his life here on prehistoric Earth, which was that he would go mad. He beamed again and took a bite out of a rabbit leg left over from his supper. He chewed happily for a few moments and then decided formally to announce his decision. He stood up straight and looked the world squarely in the Filton Hills. To add weight to his words, he stuck the rabbit bone in his beard. He spread his arms out wide. "I will go mad," he announced. "Good idea," said Fort Prefect, clambering down from the rock on which he had been sitting. Arthur's brain somersaulted. His jaw did push-ups. "I went mad for a while," said Ford. "Did me no end of good." Arthur's eyes did cartwheels. "You see," said Ford. "Where have you been?" interrupted Arthur, now that his head had finished working out. "Around," said Ford. "Around and about." He grinned in what he accurately judged to be an infuriating manner. "I just took my mind off the hook for a bit. I reckon that if the world wanted me badly enough, it would call back. And it did." Took out his now terribly battered and dilapidated satchel, his sub-ethosymptomatic. "At least," he said, "I think it did. This has been playing up a bit." He shook it. "If it was a false alarm, I shall go mad," he said, again. Arthur shook his head and sat down. He looked up. "I thought you must be dead," he said simply. "So did I for a while," said Ford. "And then I decided I was a lemon for a couple weeks. I kept myself amused all that time, jumping in and out of a gin and tonic." Arthur cleared his throat and then did it again. "Where," he said, "did you find a gin and tonic?" said Ford brightly. "I found a small lake that thought it was gin and tonic and jumped in and out of that. At least I think it thought it was gin and tonic. I may," he added with a grin that would have sent sane men scampering into trees, "have been imagining it." He waited for a reaction from Arthur, but Arthur knew better than that. "Carry on," he said evenly. "The point is, you see," said Ford, "that there is no point in driving yourself mad trying to stop yourself going there. You might just as well give in and save your sanity for later." "And this is you sane again, is it?" asked Arthur. "I asked merely for information." "I went to Africa," said Ford. "Yes?" "Yes." "What was that like?" "And this is your cave, is it?" said Ford. Yes," said Arthur. He felt very strange. After nearly 4 years of total isolation, he was so pleased and relieved to see Ford that he could almost cry. Ford was, on the other hand, an almost immediately annoying person. "Very nice," said Ford in reference to Arthur's cave. "You must hate it." Arthur didn't reply. "Africa was very interesting," said Ford. "I behaved very oddly there." He gazed thoughtfully into the distance. "I took up being cruel to animals," he said airily, "but only," he added, "as a hobby." "Oh, yes," said Arthur warily. "Yes," Ford assured him. "I won't disturb you with the details because they would..." "What?" "Disturb you, but you may be interested to know that I am single-handedly responsible for the evolved shape of the animal you came to know in later centuries as a giraffe. And I tried to learn to fly. Do you believe me?" "Tell me," said Arthur. "I'll tell you later. I'll just mention that the guide says..." "The guide? The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You remember?" Oh, yes, I remember throwing it in the river. Yes, said Ford, but I fished it out. You didn't tell me. I didn't want you to throw it in again. Fair enough, admitted Arthur. It says... What? The guide says... The guide says that there is an art to flying, said Ford, or rather a knack. The knack lies in learning how to throw yourself at the ground and miss. He smiled weakly. He pointed at the knees of his trousers and held his arms up to show the elbows. They were all torn and worn through. I haven't done very well so far, he said. He stuck out his hand. I'm very glad to see you again, Arthur, he added. Arthur shook his head in a sudden access of emotion and bewilderment. I haven't seen you for years, he said. Not anyone can hardly even remember how to speak. I keep forgetting words. I practice, you see. I practice by talking to... What are those things people think you're mad if you talk to, like George III? Kings? Suggested Ford. No, said Arthur. The things he used to talk to. We're surrounded by them. For heaven's sake, I've planted hundreds of them. Myself. They all died. Trees. I practice by talking to trees. What's that for? Ford still had his hand stuck out. Arthur looked at it with incomprehension. Shake? Prompted Ford. Arthur did nervously at first, as if it might turn out to be a fish. Then he grasped it vigorously with both hands in an overwhelming flood of relief. He shook it and shook it. After a while, Ford found it necessary to disengage. They climbed to the top of a nearby outcrop of rock and surveyed the scene around them. What happened to the Golgafringians? Asked Ford. Arthur shrugged. A lot of them didn't make it through the winter 3 years ago, he said, and the few who remained in the spring said that they needed holiday and set off on a raft. History says that they must have survived. Said Ford. Well. He stuck his hands on his hips and looked around again at the empty world. Suddenly, there was about Ford a sense of energy and purpose. We're going, he said excitedly and shivered with energy. Where? How? Said Arthur. I don't know, said Ford, but I just feel that the time is right. Things are going to happen. We're on our way. He lowered his voice to a whisper. I have detected, he said, disturbances in the watch. He gazed keenly into the distance and looked as if he would quite like to whine the wind to blow his hair back dramatically at that point. But the wind was very busy, fooling around with some leaves a little way off. Arthur asked him to repeat what he had just said because he hadn't quite understood his meaning. Ford repeated it. The watch? Said Arthur. The space-time watch, said Ford, and as the wind blew briefly past at that moment, he bared his teeth into it. Arthur nodded and then cleared his throat. Are we talking about, he asked cautiously, some sort of Vogan laundromat, or what are we talking about? Eddies, said Ford, in space-time continuum. Ah, nodded Arthur. Is he? He pushed his hands into the pockets of his dressing gown and looked knowledgeably into the distance. What? Said Ford. Who? Said Arthur. Is Eddie then exactly then? Ford looked angrily at him. Will you listen? He snapped. I have been listening, said Arthur, but I'm not sure it's helped. Ford grasped him by the lapels of his dressing gown and spoke to him as slowly and distinctly and patiently as if he were somebody from the telephone company accounts department. There seem, he said, to be some pools, he said, of instability, he said, in the fabric, he said. Arthur looked foolishly at the cloth of his dressing gown where Ford was holding it. Ford swept on where Arthur could turn the foolish look into a foolish remark. In the fabric of space-time, he said. Ah, that, said Arthur. Yes, that, confirmed Ford. They stood there alone, on a hill, on prehistoric Earth, and stared each other resolutely in the face. And it's done what? Said Arthur. It, said Ford, has developed tools of instability. Has it? Said Arthur, his eyes not wavering for a moment. It has, said Ford, with a simple degree of ocular immobility. Good, said Arthur. See? Said Ford. No, said Arthur. There was quite a pause. The difficulty with this conversation, said Arthur, after a sort of ponderous look that had crawled slowly across his face like a mountaineering negotiating a tricky outcrop, is that it's very different from most of the ones I've had of late, which, as I explained, have mostly been with trees. They weren't like this, except for perhaps some of the ones I've had with elms that sometimes got a bit bogged down. Arthur, said Ford. Hello? Yes? Said Arthur. Just believe everything I tell you, and it will be very, very simple. Oh, well, I'm not sure I believe that. They sat down and composed their thoughts. Ford got out of his sub-ethos symptomatic, was making vague humming noises, and a tiny light on it was flickering faintly. Flat battery, said Arthur. No, said Ford. There's a moving disturbance in the fabric of space-time, an eddy, a pool of instability, and it's somewhere in our vicinity. Where? Ford moved the device in a slow, lightly bobbing semicircle. Suddenly, the light flashed. There, said Ford, shooting out his arm. There, behind that sofa. Arthur looked. Much to his surprise, there was a velvet, paisley-covered Chesterfield sofa in the field in front of him. He goggled intently at it. Shrewd questions sprang into his mind. Why, he said, is there a sofa in that field? I told you, shouted Ford, leaping to his feet. Eddies in the space-time continuum. And this is his sofa, is it? Asked Arthur, struggling to his feet, and he hoped, though not very optimistically, to his senses. Arthur, shouted Ford at him. That sofa is there because of the space-time instability I've been trying to get your terminally softened brain to come to grips with. It's been washed up out of the continuum. It's space-time jetsam. Doesn't matter what it is, we've got to catch it. It's our only way out of here. He scrambled rapidly down the rocky outcrop and made off across the field. Catch it? Muttered Arthur, then frowned in bemusement as he saw that the Chesterfield was lazily bobbing and wafting away across the grass. With a whoop of utterly unexpected delight, he leaped down the rock and plunged off in hectic pursuit of Ford Prefect and the irrational piece of furniture. They careened wildly through the grass, leaping, laughing, shouting instructions to each other to head the thing off this way or that way. The sun shone dreamily in the swaying grass. Tiny field animals scattered crazily in their wake. Arthur felt happy. He was terribly pleased that the day was for once working out so much according to plan. Only 20 minutes ago, he had decided he would go mad, and now, here he was, already chasing a Chesterfield sofa across the fields of prehistoric Earth. The sofa bobbed this way and that, and seemed simultaneously to be as solid as the trees, as it drifted past some of them, and hazy as a billowing dream as it floated like a ghost through others. Ford and Arthur pounded chaotically after it, but it dodged and weaved as if following its own complex mathematical topography, which it was. Still they pursued, still it danced and spun, and suddenly turned and dipped as if crossing the lip of a catastrophe graph. And they were practically on top of it. With a heave and a shout, they leaped on it. The sun winked out. They fell through a sickening nothingness and emerged unexpectedly in the middle of the pitch at Lord's Cricket Ground, St. John's Wood, London, toward the end of the last test match of the Australian series in the year 1908, with England only needing 28 runs to win. Important fact from the Galactic History number 1, reproduced from the Sidereal Daily Mentioner's book of popular galactic history. The night sky over the planet Cricket is the least interesting sight in the entire universe. Chapter 3. It was a charming and delightful day at Lord's as Ford and Arthur tumbled haphazardly out of a space-time anomaly and hit the immaculate turf rather hard. The applause of the crowd was tremendous. It wasn't for them, but instinctively they bowed anyway, which was fortunate because the small red heavy ball that the crowd actually had been applauding whistled mere inches over Arthur's head. They threw themselves back to the ground that seemed to spin hideously around them. "What was that?" hissed Arthur. "Something red," hissed Ford back at him. "Where are we? Somewhere green?" "Shapes," muttered Arthur. "I need shapes." The applause of the crowd had been rapidly succeeded by gasps of astonishment and the awkward titters of hundreds of people who could not yet make up their minds whether to believe what they had just seen or not. "This your sofa?" said a voice. "What was that?" whispered Ford. Arthur looked up. "Something blue," he said. "Shape?" asked Ford. Arthur looked again. "Well shaped," he hissed at Ford with his brow savagely furrowed. "Like a policeman?" They remained crouched there for a few moments, frowning deeply. The blue thing shaped like a policeman tapped them both on the shoulders. They remained crouched there for a few moments, frowning deeply. The blue thing shaped like a policeman tapped them both on the shoulders. "Come on, you two," the shape said. "Let's go." These words had an electrifying effect on Arthur. He leaped to his feet and shot a series of startled glances at the panorama around him that had suddenly settled down into something of quite terrifying ordinariness. "Where did you get this from?" he yelled at the policeman's shape. "What did you say?" said the startled shape. "This is the Lord's cricket ground, isn't it?" snapped Arthur. "Where did you find it?" "How did you get it here? I think," he added, clasping his hand to his brow, "that I'd better calm down." He squatted down abruptly in front of Ford. "It is a policeman," he said. "What do we do?" Ford shrugged. "What do you want to do?" he said. "I want you," said Arthur, "to tell me that I have been dreaming for the last 5 years. Ford shrugged again and obliged. "You've been dreaming for the last 5 years. Arthur got to his feet. "It's all right, officer," he said. "I've been dreaming for the last 5 years. Ask him," he added, pointing at Ford. "He was in it." Having said this, he sauntered off toward the edge of the pitch, brushing down his dressing gown. He then noticed his dressing gown and then stopped. He stared at it. He turned around. He flung himself at the policeman. "So where did I get these clothes from?" he howled. He collapsed and lay twitching on the grass. Ford shook his head. "He's had a bad 2 million years," he said to the policeman, and together they heaved Arthur onto the sofa and carried him off the pitch, and were only briefly hampered by the sudden disappearance of the sofa on the way. Reactions to all this from the crowd were many and various. Most of them couldn't cope with watching it and listened to it on the radio instead. "Well, this is an interesting incident, Brian," said one radio commentator to another. "I don't think there have been any mysterious materializations on the pitch since, well, I don't think there have been any, have there, that I recall." Baston, 1932? No, what happened then? "Well, Peter, I think it was counter-facing Wilcox coming up the bowl from a pavilion end when a spectator suddenly ran straight across the pitch." There was a pause while the first commentator considered this. "Yes," he said. "Yes, there's nothing actually very mysterious about that, is there? He didn't actually materialize, did he? Just ran on." "No, that's true, but he did claim to have seen something materialize on the pitch." "Ah, did he?" "Yes, an alligator, I think, of some description." "And what happened to the man?" "Well, I think someone offered to take him off and give him some lunch, but he explained that he'd already had a rather good one, so the matter was dropped in, while Wickshire went on to win by 3 wickets. So, not very like this current instance. For those of you who've just tuned in, you may be interested to know that 2 rather scruffily attired men, and indeed a sofa, a Chesterfield, I think. Yes, a Chesterfield, have just materialized here in the middle of Lord's cricket ground. but I don't think they meant any harm. They've been very good-natured about it, and... Sorry, can I interrupt you a moment, Peter, and say that the sofa has just vanished? So it has. Well, that's one mystery less. Still, it's definitely one for the record books, I think, particularly occurring at this dramatic moment in play. England now needing only 24 runs to win the series. The men are leaving the pitch in the company of a police officer, and I think everyone's settling down now, and play is about to resume. Now, sir, said the policeman, after they had made a passage through the curious crowd and laid Arthur's peacefully inert body on a blanket, perhaps you'd care to tell me who you are, where you come from, and what that little scene was all about. Ford looked at the ground for a moment as if steadying himself for something. Then he straightened up and aimed a look at the policeman that hit him with the full force of every inch of the 6 light years distance between Earth and Ford's home near Beetlejuice. All right, said Ford very quickly. I'll tell you. Yes, well, that won't be necessary, said the policeman hurriedly. Just don't let whatever it was happen again. The policeman turned around and wandered off in search of anyone who wasn't from Beetlejuice. Fortunately, the cricket ground was full of them. Arthur's consciousness approached his body as from a great distance and reluctantly. It had had some bad times in awe. Slowly, nervously, it entered and settled down into its accustomed position. Arthur sat up. Where am I? He said. Lord's cricket ground, said Ford. Fine, said Arthur, and his consciousness stepped out again for a quick breather. His body flopped back on the grass. 10 minutes later, hunched over a cup of tea in the refreshment tent, the color started to come back to his haggard face. How you feeling? Asked Ford. I'm home, said Arthur, hoarsely. He closed his eyes and greedily inhaled the steam from his tea, as if it were, well, as far as Arthur was concerned, as if it were tea, which it was. Excuse me. I'm home, he repeated. Home, it's England. It's today, the nightmare's over. He opened his eyes again and smiled serenely. I'm where I belong, he said in an emotional whisper. There are 2 things I feel I should tell you, said Ford, tossing a copy of The Guardian over the table at him. I'm home, said Arthur. Yes, said Ford. One is, he said, pointing at the date at the top of the paper. That the Earth will be demolished in 2 days' time. I'm home, said Arthur. Tea, he said. Cricket. He added with pleasure. Mown grass, wooden benches, white linen jackets, beer cans. Slowly he began to focus on the newspaper. He cocked his head on one side with a slight frown. I've seen that one before, he said. His eyes wandered slowly up to the date, which Ford was idly tapping at. His face froze for a second or two and then began to do that terribly slow crashing trick that Arctic ice floes do so spectacularly in the spring. And the other thing, said Ford, is that you appear to have a bone in your beard. He tossed back his teeth. Outside the refreshment tent, the sun was shining on a happy crowd. It shone on white hats and red faces. It shone on popsicles and melted them. It shone on the tears of small children whose popsicles had just melted and fallen off the stick. It shone on the trees. It flashed off whirling cricket bats. It gleamed off the utterly extraordinary object that was parked behind the sight screens and that nobody appeared to have noticed. It beamed on Ford and Arthur as they emerged blinking from the refreshment tent and surveyed the scene around them. Arthur was shaken. Perhaps, he said, I should. No, said Ford sharply. What? Said Arthur. Don't try and phone yourself up at home. How did you know? Ford shrugged. But why not? Said Arthur. People who talk to themselves on the phone, said Ford, never learn anything to their advantage. But, look, said Ford. He picked up an imaginary phone and dialed an imaginary dial. Hello, he said into the imaginary mouthpiece. Is that Arthur Dent? Oh, hello, yes, this is Arthur Dent speaking. Don't hang up. He looked at the imaginary phone in disappointment. He hung up, he said. Try and put the imaginary phone neatly back on its imaginary hook. This is not my first temporal anomaly, he added. A glowing look replaced the already glum look on Arthur Dent's face. So we're not home in the dry? He said. Well, we could not even "We say," replied Ford, "to be home and vigorously toweling ourselves off." The cricket game continued. The bowler approached the wicket at a lope, a trot, and then a run. He suddenly exploded in a flurry of arms and legs, out of which flew a ball. The batsman swung and thwacked it behind him over the sight screens. Ford's eyes followed the trajectory of the ball and jogged momentarily. He stiffened. He looked along the flight path of the ball again, and his eyes twitched again. "This isn't my towel," said Arthur, who was rummaging in his rabbit skin bag. "Shh," said Ford, and screwed his eyes up in concentration. "I had a Gogo friction jogging towel," continued Arthur. "It was blue with yellow stars on it. This isn't it." "Shh," said Ford again. He covered one eye and looked with the other. "This one's pink," said Arthur. "It isn't yours, is it?" "I would like you to shut up about your towel," said Ford. "It isn't my towel," insisted Arthur. "That is the point I'm trying to—" "And the time at which I would like you to shut up about it," continued Ford in a low growl, "is now." "All right," said Arthur, starting to stuff it back into the primitively stitched rabbit skin bag. "I realize that it is probably not important to the cosmic scale of things. It's just odd, that's all. A pink towel suddenly instead of a blue one with yellow stars." Ford was beginning to behave rather strangely, or rather not actually beginning to behave strangely, but beginning to behave in a way strangely different from the other strange ways in which he more regularly behaved. What he was doing was this: regardless of the bemused stares it was provoking from his fellow members of the crowd gathered around the pitch, who was waving his hands in sharp movements across his face, ducking down behind some people, leaping up behind others, then standing still and blinking a lot. After a moment or two of this, he started to stalk forward slowly, stealthily, wearing a puzzled frown of concentration like a leopard that is not sure whether it's just seen a half-empty tin of cat food half a mile away across a hot and dusty plain. "This isn't my bag either," said Arthur suddenly. Ford's spell of concentration was broken. He turned angrily on Arthur. "I wasn't talking about my towel," said Arthur. "We've established that it isn't mine. It's just that the bag into which I was putting the towel that is not mine is also not mine, though it is extraordinarily similar. Now, personally, I think that is extremely odd, especially as the bag was one I made myself in prehistoric Earth. These are also not my stones," he added, pulling a few flat gray stones out of the bag. "I was making a collection of interesting stones, and these are clearly very dull ones." A roar of excitement thrilled through the crowd and obliterated whatever it was that Ford said in reply to this piece of information. The cricket ball that had excited this reaction fell out of the sky and dropped neatly into Arthur's mysterious rabbit skin bag. "Well, I would say that was also a very curious event," said Arthur, rapidly closing the bag and pretending to look for the ball on the ground. "I don't think it's here," he said to the small boys who immediately clustered around him to join in the search. "Probably rolled off somewhere. Over there, I expect." He pointed vaguely in the direction in which he wished they would push off. One of the boys looked at him quizzically. "You all right?" said the boy. "No," said Arthur. "That's why you got a bone in your beard?" said the boy. "I'm training it to like being whatever it's put." Arthur prided himself on saying this. It was, he thought, exactly the sort of thing that would entertain and stimulate young minds. "Oh," said the small boy, putting his head on one side and thinking about it. "What's your name?" "Dint," said Arthur. "Arthur Dint." "You're a jerk, Dint," said the boy. "A complete knee-biter." The boy looked past him at something else to show that he wasn't in any particular hurry to run away, and then wandered off scratching his nose. Suddenly, Arthur remembered that the Earth was going to be demolished again in 2 days' time, and just this once didn't feel too bad about it. Play resumed with a new ball, and the sun continued to shine, and Ford continued to jump up and down, shaking his head and blinking. "Something's on your mind, isn't it?" said Arthur. "I think," said Ford in a tone of voice that Arthur by now recognized as one of the presaged something utterly unintelligible, "that there's an SEP over there?" He pointed curiously enough the direction he pointed in was not the one in which he was looking. Arthur looked in the one direction, which was toward the sight screens, and in the other, which was at the field of clay. He nodded, he shrugged. He shrugged again. A what? He said. An SMP. An SEP. And what's that? Somebody else's problem, said Ford. Oh, good, said Arthur, and relaxed. He had no idea what all this was about, but at least it seemed to be over. It wasn't. Over there, said Ford again, pointing at sight screens and looking at the pitch. Where, said Arthur. There, said Ford. I see, said Arthur, who didn't. You do? Said Ford. What? Said Arthur. Can you see, said Ford patiently, the SCP? I thought you said that was someone else's problem. That's right. Arthur nodded slowly, carefully, and with an air of immense stupidity. And I want to know, said Ford, if you can see it. You do? Yes. What, said Arthur, does it look like? Well, how should I know, you fool? Shouted Ford. If you can see it, you tell me. Arthur experienced that dull throbbing sensation just behind the temples. That was a hallmark of so many of his conversations with Ford. His brain lurked like a frightened puppy in its kennel. Ford took him by the arm. An SCP, he said, is something that we can't see or don't see or our brain doesn't let us see because we think that it's somebody else's problem. That's what SCP means, somebody else's problem. The brain just edits it out. It's like a blind spot. If you look at it directly, you won't see it unless you know precisely what it is. Your only hope is to catch it by surprise out of the corner of your eye. Ah, said Arthur. Then that's why. Yes, said Ford. You know what Arthur was going to say. You've been jumping up and, yes, down and blinking, yes, and... I think you got the message. I can see it, said Arthur. It's a spaceship. For a moment, Arthur was stunned by the reaction this revelation provoked. A roar erupted from the crowd, and from every direction people were running and shouting and yelling, tumbling over one another in a tumult of confusion. He stumbled back in astonishment and glanced fearfully around. Then he glanced around again, in even greater astonishment. Exciting, isn't it? Said an apparition. The apparition wobbled in front of Arthur's eyes, though the truth of the matter is probably that Arthur's eyes were wobbling in front of the apparition. His mouth wobbled as well. His mouth said, I think your team is just one, said the apparition. Repeated Arthur, and punctuated each wobble with a prod that Ford prefixed back. Ford was staring at the tumult in trepidation. English, aren't you? Said the apparition. Yes, said Arthur. Well, your team, as I see, is just one. The match, it seems. But once they retain the ashes. You must be very pleased, I must say. I'm rather fond of cricket, though. I wouldn't like anyone outside this planet to hear me saying that. Oh, dear no. The apparition gave what might have been a mischievous grin, but it was hard to tell because the sun was directly behind him, creating a blinding halo around his head and illuminating his silver hair and beard in a way that was awesome, dramatic, and hard to reconcile with mischievous greatness. Still, he said, it'll all be over in a couple of days, won't it? So as I said to you when we last met, I was very sorry about that. Still, whatever will have been, will have been. Arthur tried to speak, but gave up the unequal struggle. He prodded Ford again. I thought something terrible had happened, said Ford, but it's just the end of the game. We ought to get out. Oh, hello, Lord Buckfast. What are you doing here? Oh, pottering, said the old man gravely. That your ship? Can you give us a lift anywhere? Patience, the old man admonished. Okay, said Ford. It's just that this planet's going to be demolished pretty soon. I know that, said Slarty Barkfast. And, well, I just wanted to make that point, said Ford. The point is taken. And if you feel that you really want to hang around a cricket pitch at this point, I do. Then it's your ship. It is. I suppose, Ford turned away sharply at this point. Hello, Slarty Barkfast, said Arthur at last. Hello, Earthmen, said Slarty Barkfast. After all, said Ford, we can only die once. The old man ignored this and stared keenly onto the pitch, with eyes that seemed alive with expressions that had no apparent bearing on what was happening out there. What was happening was that the crowd was gathering itself into a wide circle around the center of the pitch. What Slarty Bartfast saw in it, he alone knew. Floyd was humming something. It was just one note repeated at intervals. He was hoping that somebody would ask him what he was humming, but nobody did. If anybody had asked him, he would have said he was humming the first line of a Noel Coward song called Mad About the Boy over and over again. It would then have been pointed out to him that he was only singing one note, to which he would have replied for reasons that he hoped would be apparent, he was omitting the about the boy bit. He was annoyed that nobody asked. It's just, he burst out at last, that if we don't go soon, we might get caught in the middle of it all again, and there's nothing that depresses me more than seeing a planet being destroyed, except possibly still being on it when it happens, or, he added in an undertone, hanging around cricket matches. Patience, said Slarty Bartfast again. Great things are afoot. That's what you said last time we met, said Arthur. They were, said Slarty Bartfast. Yes, that's true, admitted Arthur. All, however, that seemed to be afoot was a ceremony of some kind. It was being specially staged for the benefit of television rather than the spectators, and all they could gather about it from where they were standing was that they heard from a nearby radio. Ford was aggressively uninterested. He fretted as he heard it explained that the ashes were about to be presented to the captain of the English team out there on the pitch. He had been told that this was because they had now won it for the nth time, positively barked with annoyance at the information that the ashes were the remains of a cricket stump. And when, further to this, he was asked, content with the fact that the cricket stump in question had been burnt in Melbourne, Australia in 1882 to signify the death of English cricket. He rounded on to Slarty Bartfast, took a deep breath, but didn't have a chance to say anything because the old man wasn't there. He was marched out onto the pitch with terrible purpose in his gait. His hair, beard, and robes swept behind him, looking very much as Moses would have looked if Sinai had been a well-cut lawn instead of, as it is more usually represented, a fiery smoking mountain. He said to meet him at his ship, said Arthur. What in the name of Zarking Fardwarks is the old fool doing? Exploded Ford. Meeting us at his ship in 2 minutes, said Arthur, with a shrug which indicated total abdication of thought. They stared off toward it. Strange sounds reached their ears. They tried not to listen, but could not help noticing that Slarty Bartfast was querulously demanding that he be given the silver urn containing the ashes, as they were, he said, vitally important for the past, present, and future safety of the galaxy, and that this was causing wild hilarity. They resolved to ignore it. What happened next, they could not ignore. With a noise like 100,000 people saying, whoop, a steely white spaceship suddenly seemed to create itself out of nothing in the air directly above the cricket pitch, and hung there with infinite menace and a slight hum. Then for a while it did nothing, as if it expected everybody to go about their normal business and not mind its hanging there. Then it did something quite extraordinary. Rather, it opened up and let something quite extraordinary come out of it. 11 quite extraordinary things. They were robots. White robots. What was most extraordinary about them was that they appeared to have come dressed for the occasion. Not only were they white, but they carried what appeared to be cricket bats. And not only that, but they also carried what appeared to be cricket balls. And not only that, but they wore white-ribbed pads around the lower parts of their legs. These last were extraordinary because they appeared to contain jets that allowed these curiously civilized robots to fly down from their hovering spacecraft and start to kill people, which is what they did. Hello, said Arthur. Something seems to be happening. Get to the ship, shouted Ford. I don't want to know, just get to the ship. He started running. I don't want to know, I don't want to see. I don't want to hear it, he yelled as he ran. This is not my planet. I didn't choose to be here. I don't want to get involved. Just get me out of here. And get me to a party with people I can relate to. Smoke and flame billowed from the pitch. Well, the Supernatural Brigade certainly seems to be out in force here today, grumbled the radio happily to itself. What I need, shouted Ford, by the way of clarifying his previous remarks, is a strong drink and a pure group. He continued to run, pausing only for a moment to grab Arthur's arm and drag him along with him. Arthur had adopted his normal crisis role, which was to stand with his mouth hanging open and let it all wash over him. They're playing cricket, muttered Arthur, stumbling along after Ford. I swear they are playing cricket. I do not know why they are doing this, but that is what they are doing. They're not just killing people, they're sending them up, he shouted. Ford, they're sending us up. It would have been hard to disbelieve this without a great deal of more galactic history than Arthur had so far managed to pick up in his travels. The ghostly but violent shapes that could be seen moving within the thick pall of smoke seemed to be performing a series of bizarre parodies of batting strokes, and the difference being that every ball they struck with their bats exploded wherever it landed. The very first one of these had dispelled Arthur's initial reaction that the whole thing might just be a publicity stunt by the Australian margarine manufacturers. And then, as suddenly as it had all started, it was over. The 11 white robots ascended through the seething cloud in a tight formation, and with a few last flashes of flame under the bows of their hovering white ship, which with a noise like 100,000 people saying "Floop," promptly vanished into the thin air out of which it had whooped. For a moment, there was a terrible stunned silence. And then, out of the drifting smoke, emerged the pale figure of Slarty Bartfast, looking even more like Moses because, in spite of the continued absence of the mountain, he was at least now striding across a fiery and smoking, well-mown lawn. Oh goodness, we're gonna have to stop there and go to our first music break. Oh, hello. Hello, Mr. Hayes. R. Hayes. Nice to see you. Alright, so we're going to go to our first music break. On this break, we have the wonderful and lovely Miss Mia Savage. She was on the Paranormal Forum last night. I'm so grateful that she was there. And she's going to sing with her group, Your Skeleton, Lemire and Crypto, Let Me Be Your Home, and On Your Reality. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Fun. Not if you know.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining me this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. We're going to get back into our book by Mr. Douglas Adams, Life, the Universe, and Everything. He stared wildly about him until he saw hurrying figures of Arthur Dent and Fort Prefect, forcing their way through the frightened crowd that was for the moment busy stampeding in the opposite direction. The crowd was clearly thinking to itself what an unusual day this was turning out to be, and not really knowing which way, if any, to turn. Scotty Bartfast was gesticulating urgently at Ford and Arthur and shouting at them as the three gradually converged on his ship. Still parked behind the sight screens and still apparently unnoticed by the crowd as stampeding past him, who presumably had enough of their own problems to cope with at the time. "They've garble warble farble," shouted Slarty Bartfast in his thin, tremulous voice. "What did he say?" panted Ford as he elbowed his way onward. Arthur shook his head. "They've something or other," he said. "They've table warble farble?" shouted Slarty Bartfast again. Ford and Arthur shook their heads at each other. "Sounds urgent," Arthur said. He stopped and shouted, "What?" "They've garble warble fascists," cried Slarty Bartfast, still waving at them. "He says," said Arthur, "well, they've taken the ashes. That is what I think he's saying." And they ran on. Said Ford. "Ashes," said Arthur tersely. "The bent remains of the cricket stump. It's a trophy that, was panting, is apparently what they have come and taken." He shook his head very slightly, as if he were trying to get his brain to settle down lower in his skull. "Strange thing to want to tell us," snapped Ford. "Strange thing to take. Strange ship." They had arrived at it. The second strangest thing about the ship was watching the somebody else's problem field at work. They could now clearly see the ship for what it was, simply because they knew it was there. It was quite apparent, however, that nobody else could. This wasn't because it was actually invisible or anything hyper impossible like that. The technology involved in making anything invisible is so infinitely complex that 999,999,999,999 times out of a trillion, it is much simpler and more effective just to take the thing away and do without it. The ultra-famous sciento-magician Everfax of Wug once bet his life that, given a year, he could render the great Mega Mountain Magramol entirely invisible. Having spent most of the year jiggling around with immense luxovalves and fracto-nullifiers and spectrum bypass-o-matics, he realized, with 9 hours to go, he wasn't going to make it. So he and his friends and his friends and friends and his friends and friends' friends and his friends' friends and some rather less good friends of theirs who happened to own a major stellar trucking company put in what is now widely recognized as being the hardest night's work in history, and sure enough, on the following day, Magamon was no longer visible. Everfax lost his bet, and therefore his life, simply because some pedantic adjudicating official noted that when walking around the area where Magramol ought to be, he didn't trip over or break his nose or anything, and B, suspicious looking extra moon. The somebody else's problem field is much simpler and more effective, and what is more, can be run for over 100 years on a single flashlight battery. This is because it relies on people's natural predisposition not to see anything they don't want to, weren't expecting, or can't explain. If Everfax had painted the mountain pink and erected a cheap and simple somebody else's problem field on it, then people would have walked past the mountain, around it, even over it, and simply never have noticed that the thing was there. And this is precisely what was happening with Slarty Bartfast's ship. It wasn't pink, but if it had been, that would have been the least of its visual problems, and people were simply ignoring it like anything. The most extraordinary thing about it was that it looked only partly like a spaceship with guidance fins, rocket engines, and escape hatches, and so on. And and a great deal like a small, upended Italian bistro. Ford and Arthur gazed up at it with wonderment and deeply offended sensibilities. "Yes, I know," said Flighty Bartfast, hurrying up to them at that point, breathless and agitated. "But there is a reason. Come, we must go. The ancient nightmare is come again. Doom confronts us all. We must leave at once." "I fancy somewhere sunny," said Ford. Ford and Arthur followed Flighty Bartfast into the ship, and were so perplexed by what they saw inside it that they were totally unaware of what happened next outside. A spaceship, yet another one, but this one sleek in silver, descending from the sky onto the pitch quietly without fuss, its long legs unlocked in a smooth belly of technology. It landed gently. It extended a short ramp. A tall, gray-green figure marched briskly out and approached the small knot of people who were gathered in the center of the pitch, tending to casualties of the recent bizarre massacre. It moved people aside with quite understated authority and came at last to a man lying in a desperate pool of blood, clearly now beyond the reach of any earthly medicine, breathing, coughing his last. The figure knelt down quietly beside him. "Arthur Philip Deodat?" asked the figure. The man, with horrified confusion in his eyes, nodded feebly. "You're no good, Dumbo nothing," whispered the creature. "I thought you should know that before you went." Chapter 4. It seemed to Arthur as if the whole sky suddenly just stood aside and let them through. It seemed to him that the atoms of his brain and the atoms of the cosmos were streaming through each other. It seemed to him that he was blown on the wind of the universe, and that the wind was him. It seemed to him that he was one of the thoughts of the universe, and that the universe was a thought of his. It seemed to the people of Lord's Cricket Ground that another North London restaurant had just come and gone, as they so often do, and that this was somebody else's problem. "What happened?" whispered Arthur in considerable awe. "Who took off?" said Flighty Bartfast. Arthur lay in startled stillness on the acceleration couch. He wasn't certain whether he had just got space sickness or religion. "Nice mover," said Ford in an unsuccessful attempt to disguise the degree to which he had been impressed by what Flighty Bartfast's ship had just done. "Shame about the decor." For a moment or two, the old man didn't reply. He was staring at the instruments with the air of one who was trying to convert Fahrenheit to centigrade in his head while his house was burning down. Then his brow cleared and he stared for a moment at the wide panoramic screen in front of him, which displayed a bewildering complexity of stars streaming like silver threads around him. His hips moved as if he were trying to spell something. Suddenly, his eyes darted in alarm back to his instruments, but then his expression merely subsided into a steady frown. He looked back up at the screen. He felt his own pulse. His frown deepened for a moment, then he relaxed. "It's a mistake to try to understand machines," he said. "They only worry me." "What did you say?" "Decor," said Ford. "Pity about it." "Deep in the fundamental heart of mind and universe," said Flighty Bartfast, "there is a reason." Ford glanced sharply around. He clearly thought this was taking an optimistic view of things. The interior of the flight deck was dark green, dark red, dark brown, cramped, and moodily lit. Inexplicably, the resemblance to a small Italian bistro had failed to end at the hatchway. Small pools of light kicked out hot plants, glazed tiles, and all sorts of little, unidentifiable brass things. Raffia-wrapped bottles lurked hideously in the shadows. The instruments that had occupied Flighty Bartfast's attention seemed to be mounted in the bottoms of bottles that were set in concrete. Ford reached out and touched it. Fake concrete? Plastic? Fake bottles set in fake concrete? The fundamental heart of mind and universe can take a running jump, he thought to himself. This is rubbish. On the other hand, it could not be denied that the way the ship had moved made the heart of gold seem like an electric gram. He swung himself off the couch. He brushed himself off. He looked at Arthur, who was singing quietly to himself. He looked at the screen and recognized nothing. He looked at Flighty Bartfast. "How far did we just travel?" he said. About, said Flighty Bartfast, "about 2/3 of the way across the galactic disk, I would say. Roughly 2/3, I think. It's a strange thing, said Arthur quietly, that the farther and faster one travels across the universe, one's position in it seems to be largely immaterial, and one is filled with a profound or rather empty hallway. Yes, very strange, said Ford. Where are we going? We are going, said Smarty Breakfast, to confront an ancient nightmare of the universe. And where are you going to drop us off? I will need your help. Tough. Look, there's somewhere you can take us, where we can have fun. I'm trying to think of it. We can get drunk and maybe listen to some extremely evil music. Hold on, I'll look it up. He dug out his copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and zipped through those parts of the index primarily concerned with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. A curse has arisen from the mists of time, said Smarty Breakfast. Yes, I expect so, said Ford. Hey, he said. Lighting accidentally on one particular reference entry. Eccentrica Galambit. Did you ever meet her? The triple-breasted horror of Eroticon 6? Some people say her erogenous zones start some 4 miles from her actual body. Me, I disagree. I say 5. A curse, says Smarty Breakfast, which will engulf the galaxy in fire and destruction and possibly bring the universe to a premature doom. I mean it, he added. Sounds like a bad time, said Ford. With luck, I'll be drunk enough not to notice. Here, he said, stabbing his finger at the screen of the guide. Would be a really wicked place to go, and I think we should. What do you say, Arthur? Stop mumbling mantras and pay attention. There's important stuff you're missing here. Arthur pushed himself up from his couch and shook his head. Where are we going? He said. To confront an ancient night. Can it? Said Ford. Arthur, we are going out into the galaxy to have some fun. Is that an idea you can cope with? What's Smarty Breakfast so anxious about? Said Arthur. Nothing, said Ford. Said Smarty Breakfast. Come, he added, with sudden authority. There's much I must show and tell you. He walked toward a green wrought iron spiral staircase set incomprehensibly in the middle of the flight deck, and started to ascend. Arthur with a frown followed, Ford slamming the guide sullenly back into his satchel. My doctor says that I have a malformed public duty gland and a natural deficiency in moral fiber, he muttered to himself, and that I am therefore excused from saving universes. Nevertheless, he stomped up the stairs behind them. What they found upstairs was just stupid, or so it seemed, and Ford shook his head, buried his face in his hands, and slumped against a pot plant, crushing it against the wall. The central computational area, said Smarty Breakfast, unperturbed. This is where every calculation affecting the ship in any way is performed. Yes, I know what it looks like, but it is in fact a complex 4-dimensional topographical map of a series of highly complex mathematical functions. It looks like a joke, said Arthur. I know what it looks like, said Smarty Breakfast, and went into it. As he did so, Arthur had a sudden vague flash of what it might mean. But he refused to believe it. The universe could not possibly work like that, he thought. Cannot possibly. That, he thought to himself, would be as absurd as absurd as. He terminated that line of thinking. Most of the absurd things he could think of had already happened, and this was one of them. It was a large glass cage or box, in fact a room. In it was a table, a long one. Around it were gathered about a dozen chairs, of bentwood style. On it was a tablecloth, a grubby red and white check tablecloth, scarred with the occasional cigarette burn, each presumably at the precisely calculated mathematical position. And on the tablecloth sat some dozen half-eaten Italian meals, hedged about with half-eaten breadsticks and half-drunk glasses of wine, and toyed with listlessly by robots. It was all completely artificial. The robot customers were attended by a robot waiter, a robot wine waiter, and a robot maitre d'. The furniture was artificial, the tablecloth artificial, and each particular piece of food was clearly capable of exhibiting all the mechanical characteristics of, say, Apollo Suppresso without actually being one. And all participated in a little dance together, a complex routine involving the manipulation of menus, check pads, wallets, checkbooks, credit cards, watches, pencils, and paper napkins, which seemed to be hovering constantly on the edge of violence but never actually getting anywhere. Slowly Bartfast hurried in and then appeared to pass the time of the day quite idly with the maitre d', while one of the customer robots in Otterori slid slowly under the table, mentioning what he intended to do to some guy over some girl. Slowly Bartfast took over the seat that had been thus vacated and passed a shrewd eye over the menu. The tempo of the routine around the table seemed somehow imperceptibly to quicken. Arguments broke out. People attempted to prove things on napkins. They waved fiercely at each other and attempted to examine each other's pieces of chicken. The waiter's hand began to move on the check pad more quickly than a human hand could manage, and then more quickly than a human eye could follow. The pace accelerated. Soon, an extraordinary and insistent politeness overwhelmed the group. And seconds later, it seemed that a moment of consensus was suddenly achieved. A new vibration thrilled through the ship. Slotty Bartfast emerged from the glass room. Astromathematics, he said, the most powerful computational force known to parasites. Come to the room of informational illusions. He swept past and carried them, bewildered, in his wake. Chapter 5. The astromathematic drive is a wonderful new method of crossing vast interstellar distances without all that dangerous mucking about with improbability factors. Astromathematics itself is simply a revolutionary new way of understanding the behavior of numbers. Just as Einstein observed that space was not absolute but depended on the observer's movement in space, and that time was not an absolute but depended on the observer's movement in time, so it is now realized that numbers are not absolute but depend on the observer's movements and response. The first non-absolute number is the number of people for whom the table is reserved. This will vary during the course of the first 3 telephone calls to the restaurant, and then bear no apparent relation to the number of people who actually turn up, or to the number of people who subsequently join them after show, match, party, gig, or to the number of people who leave when they see who else has turned up. The second non-absolute number is the given time of arrival, which is now known to be one of the most bizarre and mathematical concepts. A reciprocal conclusion, a number whose existence can only be defined as being anything other than itself. In other words, the given time of arrival is the one moment of time at which it is impossible that any member of the party will arrive. The Priver's exclusions now play a vital part in many branches of math, including statistics and accountancy, and also form the basic equations used to engineer the somebody else's problem field. The third and most mysterious piece of non-absoluteness of all lies in the relationship between the number of items on the check, the cost of each item, the number of people at the table, and what they are each prepared to pay for. The number of people who have actually bought or brought any money is only a sub-phenomenon in this field. The baffling discrepancies that used to occur at this point remained uninvestigated for centuries simply because no one took them seriously. They were at times put down to such things as politeness, rudeness, meanness, flashiness, tiredness, emotionality, or lateness of the hour, and completely forgotten about on the following morning. They were never tested under laboratory conditions, of course, because they never occurred in laboratories, not in reputable laboratories at least. And so it was only with the advent of pocket computers that the startling truth behind became finally apparent, and it was this: numbers written on restaurant checks within the confines of restaurants do not follow the same mathematical laws. as numbers written on any other pieces of paper in any other parts of the universe. This single statement took the scientific world by storm. It completely revolutionized it. So many mathematical conferences got held in such good restaurants that many of the finest minds of the generation died of obesity and heart failure, and the science of math was put back by years. Slowly, however, the implications of the idea began to be understood. To begin with, it had been too stark, too crazy, too much like what the man in the street would have said. Oh yes, I could have told you that. Then some phrases like interactive subjectivity frameworks were invented and everybody was able to relax and get on with it. Small groups of monks who had taken up hanging around the major research institutes singing strange chants to the effect that the universe was only a figment of its own imagination were eventually given a street theater grant and went away. Chapter 6. In space travel, you see, said Slidy Bartfast as he fiddled with some instruments and winged informational illusions. In space travel. He stopped and looked about him. The realm of informational illusions was a welcome relief after a visual monstrosity of the central computational area. There was nothing in it. No information, no illusions, just themselves, white walls, and a few small instruments that looked as if they were meant to plug into something that Slidy Bartfast couldn't find. Yes, urged Arthur. He had picked up Slidy Bartfast's sense of urgency, but didn't know what to do with it. Yes, what? Said the old man. He was saying? Slidy Bartfast looked at him sharply. The numbers, he said, are awful. He resumed his search. Arthur nodded wisely to himself. After a while, he realized that this wasn't getting him anywhere and decided that he would say, what? After all. In space travel, repeated Slidy Bartfast, all the numbers are awful. Arthur nodded again and looked around to Ford for help, but Ford was practicing being sullen and getting quite good at it. I was only, said Slidy Bartfast with a sigh, trying to save you the trouble of asking me why all the ship's computations were being done on a waiter's check pad. Arthur frowned. Why? He said. Were all the ship's computations being done on a wait? He stopped. Slidy Bartfast said, because in space travel all the numbers are awful. You could tell that he wasn't getting his point across. Listen, he said, on a waiter's check pad, numbers dance. You must have encountered the phenomenon. Well, on a waiter's check pad, said Slidy Bartfast. Reality and unreality collide on such a fundamental level that each becomes the other and anything is possible within certain parameters. What parameters? It's impossible to say, said Slidy Bartfast. That's one of them. Strange but true. At least I think it's strange, he added. And I am assured that it is true. At that moment, he located the slot in the wall for which he had been searching and clicked the instrument he was holding on to. Do not be alarmed, he said, then suddenly darted an alarming look at himself and lunged back. They didn't hear what he said because at that moment the ship winked out of existence around them and the star battleship, the size of a small Midlands industrial city, plunged out of the sundered night toward them. Star lasers ablaze. A nightmare storm of blistering light surged through the blackness and smacked a fair bit off the planet directly behind them. They gaped, pop-eyed, and were unable to scream. Chapter 7. This is a long one. Another world, another day, another dawn. The early morning's thinnest silver of light appeared as silence. Several billion trillion tons of super-hot exploding hydrogen nuclei rose slowly above the horizon and managed to look small, cold, and slightly damp. There is a moment in every dawn when light floats, there is the possibility of magic. Creation holds its breath. The moment passed as it regularly did on a scorn-shellless Zeta without incident. The mist clung to the surface of the marshes. The swamp trees were gray with it, the tall reeds indistinct. It hung motionless like a held breath. Nothing moved. There was silence. The sun struggled feebly with the mist, tried to impart a little warmth here, shed a little light there, but clearly today was going to be just another long haul across the sky. Nothing moved. Again, silence. Nothing moved. Silence. Nothing moved. Very often in the scornshellous Zeta, whole days would go on like this, and this was indeed going to be one of them. 14 hours later, the sun sank hopelessly beneath the opposite horizon with a sense of totally wasted effort. And a few hours later, it reappeared, squared its shoulders, and started on up the sky again. This time, however, something was happening. A mattress had just met a robot. "Hello, robot," said the mattress. "Bleh," said the robot, and continued what it was doing, which was walking around very slowly in a tiny circle. "Happy," said the mattress. The robot stopped and looked at the mattress and looked at it quizzically. It was clearly a very stupid mattress, and looked back at him with wide eyes. After what it had calculated to 10 significant, dismal places as being a precise length of pause, most likely to convey a general contempt for all things mattressy, the robot continued to walk round in 8 circles. "We could have a conversation," said the mattress. "Would you like that?" It was a large mattress, and probably one of quite high quality. Very few things actually get manufactured these days because in an infinitely large universe such as, for instance, the one in which we live, most things one could possibly imagine and a lot of things one would rather not grow somewhere. A forest was discovered recently in which most of the trees grew ratchet screwdrivers as fruit. The life cycle of the ratchet screwdriver fruit is quite interesting. Once picked, it needs a dark, dusty drawer in which it can lie undisturbed for years. Then one night it suddenly hatches, discards its outer skin, and crumbles into dust, and emerges as a totally unidentifiable little metal object with phalanges at both ends, and a sort of ridge and a sort of hole for a screw. This, when found, will get thrown away. No one knows what it's supposed to gain from this. Nature, in her infinite wisdom, is presumably working on it. No one really knows what the mattresses are meant to gain from their lives either. They're large, friendly, pocket-sprung creatures that live quite private lives in the marshes of Scornshellus Zeba. Many of them get caught, slaughtered, dried out, shipped out, and slept on. None of them seems to mind this, and all of them are called Zem. "Yeah," said Marvin. "My name," said the mattress, "is Zem. We could discuss the weather a little." Marvin paused again in his weary circular plod. The dew, he observed, was clearly fallen with a particularly sickening thud this morning. He resumed his walk as if inspired by this conversational outburst to fresh heights of gloom and despondency. He plodded tenaciously. If he had had teeth, he would have gritted them at this point. He hadn't. He didn't. The mere plod said it all. The mattress flopped and flopped around. This is a thing that only live mattresses in swamps are able to do, which is why the word is not a common usage. The flopped in a sympathetic sort of way, moving a fair-sized body of water as it did so. I blew a few bubbles up through the water engagingly. Its blue and white stripes glistened briefly in a sudden feeble ray of sun that had unexpectedly made it through the mist, causing the creature to bask momentarily. Marvin plotted. "You have something on your mind, I think," said the mattress feebly. "More than you can possibly imagine," jeered Marvin. "My capacity for mental activity of all kinds is boundless as the infinite reaches of space itself, except, of course, for my capacity for happiness." Stomp, stomp, he went. "My capacity for happiness," he added. "You could fit into a matchbox without taking out the matches first." The mattress glowed. "This is the noise made by a live swamp-dwelling mattress that is deeply moved by a story of personal tragedy. The word can also, according to the ultra-complete Maximilian Dictionary of every language ever, mean the noise made by the Lord High. San Volfwag of Hullip on discovering that he was forgotten and has forgotten his wife's birthday for the second year running. Since there was only ever one Lord High San Volfwag of Hullip, and he never married, the word is only used in a negative or speculative sense. And there is an ever-increasing body of opinion that holds that the ultra-complete Maximegalon dictionary is not worth the fleet of trucks it takes to cart a micro-stored edition around. Strangely enough, the dictionary omits the word floopily, which simply means in the manner of something which is floopy. The mattress globbered again. I sense deep dejectedness in your dials. Volume. For the meaning of the word volume, buy a copy of Scrunchellus Swamp Talk at the bookstore selling the remainder books, or alternatively buy the ultra-complete Maximegalon dictionary, as the university will be very glad to get it off their hands and regain some valuable parking lots. And it saddens me. There should be more mattress life. We live quite retired lives in the swamp, but we are content to flollop and volume and regard the wetness in the fairly floppy manner. Some of us are killed, but all of us are called Zim, so we never know which enveloping is thus kept to a minimum. Why are you walking in circles? Because my leg is stuck, said Marvin simply. It seems to me, said the mattress, eyeing it compassionately, that it is a pretty poor sort of leg. You are right, said Marvin. It is. Boom, said the mattress. I expect so, said Marvin. And I also expect that you find the idea of a robot with an artificial leg pretty amusing. You should tell your friends, Zim and Zim, when you see them later. They'll laugh, if I know them, which I don't, of course, except insofar as I know all organic life forms, which is much better than I would wish to. Ha! But my life is but a box of worm gears. He stomped around again in his tiny circle around his thin steel peg leg that revolved in the mud but seemed otherwise stuck. But why do you just keep walking round and round? Asked the mattress. Just to make the point, said Marvin, and continued round and round. Consider it made, my dear friend, flurbled the mattress. Consider it made. Just another 1,000,000 years, said Marvin. Just another quick 1,000,000. Then I might try backward, just for the variety, you understand. The mattress could feel deep in his innermost spring pockets that the robot dearly wished to be asked how long he had been trudging in this futile and fruitless manner. And with another quiet flurble, he did so. Just over 1.5 million mark, just over, said Marvin airily. Ask me if I ever get bored. Go on, ask me. The mattress did. Marvin ignored the question, he merely trudged with added emphasis. I gave a speech once, he said suddenly and apparently unconnectedly. You may not instantly see why I bring the subject up, but that is because my mind works so phenomenally fast. And I am, at a rough estimate, 30 billion times more intelligent than you. Let me give you an example. Think of a number, any number. And I am 5? said the mattress. No, said Marvin. You see? The mattress was much impressed by this and realized that it was in the presence of a not unremarkable mind. It moved along, its entire length, sending excited little ripples through its shallow, algae-covered pool. It gulped. Tell me, it urged, of the speech you once made. I want to hear it. It was received very badly, said Marvin. For a variety of reasons, I delivered it, he added, pausing to make an awkward, humping sort of gesture with his not exactly good arm, but his arm that was better than the other one that was dishearteningly welded to his left side, over there, about a mile distant. He was pointing as well as he could manage, and he obviously wanted to make it totally clear that this was as well as he could manage, through the mist, over the reeds, to a part of the marsh that looked exactly the same as every other part of the marsh. There, there, he repeated. I was somewhat of a celebrity at the time. Excitement gripped the mattress. He had never heard of speeches being delivered in Scornchella Zeta, and certainly not by celebrities. Water spattered off it as a thrill blurred across its back. It did something that mattresses rarely bother to do. Summoning every bit of its strength, it reared its oblong body, heaved it up into the air, and held it quivering there for a few seconds until it peered through the mist over the reeds at the part of the marsh that Marvin had indicated, observing without disappointment that it was exactly the same as every other part of the marsh. Effort was too much, and it floshed back into its pool, deluging Marvin with smelly mud, moss, and weeds. I was a celebrity, droned the robot sadly, for a short while, on account of my miraculous and bitterly resented escape on a fate almost as good as death in the heart of a blazing sun. You can guess from my condition, he added, how narrow my escape was. I was rescued by a scrap metal merchant. Imagine that. Here I am, brain the size of... Never mind. He trudged savagely for a few seconds. He it was who fixed me up with this leg. Hateful, isn't it? He sold me to a mine zoo. I was the star exhibit. I had to sit on a box and tell my story, while people told me to cheer up and think positive. Give us a grin, little robot, they would shout me. Give us a little chuckle. I would explain to them that to get my face to grin would take a good couple of hours in a workshop with a wrench that went down very well. The speech, urged the mattress. I long to hear the speech you gave in the marshes. There was a bridge built across the marshes, a cyber-structured hyper-bridge hundreds of miles in length to carry ion buggies and freighters over the swamp. A bridge? Called the mattress. Here in the swamp? A bridge, confirmed Marvin. Here in the swamp. It was going to revitalize the economy of the Scornchella system. They spent the entire economy of the Scornchella system building it. They asked me to open it. Poor fools. It began to rain a little. A fine spray slid through the mist. I stood on the platform for hundreds of miles in front of me and hundreds of miles behind me. The bridge stretched. Did it glitter? Enthused the mattress. It glittered. Did it span the miles majestically? It spanned the miles majestically. Did it stretch like a silver thread far out into the invisible mist? Yes, said Marvin. Do you want to hear the story? We want to hear your speech, said the mattress. This is what I said. I would like to say that it is a very great pleasure, honor, and privilege for me to open this bridge, but I can't because I'm lying. Circuits are all out of commission. I hate and despise you all. I now declare this hapless cyber structure open to the unthinking abuse of all who wantonly cause her. And I plugged myself into the open circuits. Marvin paused, remembering the moment. The mattress flirted and blurry. It flowed, gupped, and boomed. Doing this last in a particularly fluky way. Boom! It worked at last. And was it a magnificent occasion? Reasonably magnificent, the entire 1,000-mile-long bridge spontaneously folded up its glittering spans and sank leaping into the mire, taking everybody with it. There was a sad and terrible pause at this point in the conversation during which 100,000 people seemed unexpectedly to say, and a team of white robots descended from the sky like dandelion seeds drifting in the wind in tight military formation. For a sudden violent moment, they were all there in the swamp, wrenching Marvin's false leg off. And then they were gone again, in their ship that said, "Flip." You see the sort of thing I have to contend with, said Marvin to the guru mattress. And suddenly, a moment later, the robots were back again for another violent incident, and this time, when they left, the mattress was alone in the swamp. He flopped around in astonishment and alarm. He almost lurched in fear. He reared himself to see over the reeds, but there was nothing to see. No robot, no glittering bridge, no ship, just more reeds. He listened, but there was no sound on the wind beyond the now familiar sound of half-crazed, etymologists calling to each other across the soul and mire. Well, on that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our second music break. On this break, we have once again our lovely and talented Miss Mia Savage with her group Antidote for Savages. And when I say group, it's just her. She's like a little tiny, cute little treat resident. So she is going to be singing Bury Me in Heaven, which is one of my favorite songs of hers. Singing to Your Grave, The Bottom Line, and Not a Phase. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
If you're not making 158
It's right now between fear and love.
Welcome back, Wapham crew. Oh, what the heck is going on with this? Hello? So we're in the third hour of Story Time with me, TessaTNT. That means we're going to watch a spooky video together. And this page is actually pretty dang awesome. It's the, I think it's That's Unbelievable. I don't know, let's go. Let's see what it says. Okay, so That is Impossible is the name of the page. And it's the most mind-blowing videos you shouldn't watch alone. And this is the July 2024 edition. And this guy does such a good job on this. It's amazeballs. But anyways, let's get down to brass tacks and get to this video, shall we? Right, all queued up and ready to go.
In today's world, because of technology, it's becoming more and more challenging to actually trust what it is that we're looking at. Now, I'm not just talking about artificial intelligence replicating people's voices, pictures, and videos. I'm actually talking about the fact that a couple of decades ago, you would see something strange in the sky, and it would automatically trigger the possibility that you're looking at something from another world.
What the is this in the sky? What is that? Bro, what the?
Está brillando tanto. Ahí va.
Wow.
Alguien arriba de nosotros.
That's pretty damn epic right there.
Pues sí, pero eso puede ser un dron, mira, nos está viendo.
Nowadays, unfortunately, because of drones and technology, it's quite difficult to classify what it is that we're looking at.
That is not a drone, dude.
And this is sort of what happened in Medellin, Colombia about a year ago, in June 2022, when several people were surprised by a very strange object in the sky. And this is what they saw. Check this out.
Like, what?
Holy shnikes, what the heck is that?
Airplane?
There's no aeroplane, my
making that
friend.
noise, this one. It's gonna land there, like there's an airport there. Guys, what? No, this is not a. Is it a weather balloon? Zoom out.
What appears to be some sort of metallic object can be seen hovering quietly above Medellin. Now, even though the object could be a balloon, most people who were seeing this agreed that it looked like something else. Not only that, the object appeared to be stationary for more than 30 minutes and it caught the attention of several people around the city.
Bueno, aquí podemos observar en el cielo de Medellín, hoy lunes 27 de junio, un objeto estático. Tiene más de media hora allí, sin moverse. No sé qué es.
Now, I'm not exactly sure what this mysterious object is, and apparently no one does. What I do know, however, is that balloons are not supposed to stay still in the air, fixed in the same place for too long. Not only that, a couple of hours later, passengers in airplanes were actually spotting the same object. Check this out.
Oh, wow, there it is.
Whatever this thing was, it got the attention of a lot of people and left everyone completely baffled. Some internet users were suggesting that this is possibly a balloon or just a drone, while others state that they have seen similar things. Now, even though this could be a balloon, it's behaving quite differently than one, and apparently this is what caught a lot of people's attention. Not only that, if things weren't strange enough, it gets even stranger when a couple of months ago this year, a Colombian pilot saw a similar object flying at an amazing speed just above Antioquia in Colombia, about 67 miles away from Medellin. This is what he saw.
Oh wow.
In the video, we can see what appears to be the same metallic object swooshing by the airplane at very high speed. After the video was posted, it amassed millions of views and thousands of comments, and if we slow-mo and replay the video, we can actually see this mysterious object quite clearly. Now, if this is the exact same thing, I'm not too sure. What I do know is that I don't see a propulsion system in neither of the objects. Not only that, they were seen in the same region just 1 year apart. To this day, officially, both of these sightings remain a complete mystery. But when it comes to strange things in the sky, it doesn't stop there. A couple of weeks ago in Bengaluru in India, people saw what they could only describe as a square portal in the sky. Check this out.
Holy shnikes.
Oh god.
I saw something like that in California, but it was during the day.
This looks like a portal, this looks like a door.
That's crazy.
Oh my god.
Go through the portal. Do not go through the portal.
What appears to be some sort of mysterious rectangular light source can be seen in the sky. And if you look closely in the video, it appears as if the light source is coming from behind the clouds, meaning that this possibly isn't a projection from a light source on the ground. Some internet users agree that this actually looks like a Brocken spectre. Now, a Brocken spectre is the magnified shadow of an observer cast in midair upon any type of cloud opposing a strong light source. But something tells me that this is not what's going on here. Not only that, there have been several strange sightings in the sky lately of mysterious objects that appear to hide within the clouds.
Dude, over here. Come here. Look right above the trees. Come here, dude. Right above the trees. What?
I see it. I see it.
Dude, what is that?
It's a damn UFO.
That is not a plane either. It is not moving. Oh my gosh, dude. Me neither. Oh, dude.
Me neither.
Did you see how fast it just went?
Not to mention that in 2017 in China, something similar happened. And to this day, officially, there's no explanation for it. What do you think this mysterious light source is? And why do you think there are so many of these strange events going on lately? Is it just a coincidence? Or is this the real deal and there's something going on? What's your take?
Secret number.
Now, I don't know about you, but during summertime, I really enjoy traveling with my family or friends to the beach and just stay for as long as I can. Enjoy the summer, the sun, the smell of the rain, the beaches, and everything else. It's just wonderful. But there's one thing about summer that really bugs me. And I guess that it bugs everyone, literally. And those are mosquitoes. And I guess that no one actually likes mosquitoes and the fact that they spread lots of diseases amongst humans. But they are a part of nature, and I guess that meddling around with their genetics isn't exactly the best of ideas in the long term, in my opinion. However, recently a video went viral on social media of a man that supposedly found a mosquito, and there was something really wrong about it. This is what he saw.
Короче, сейчас приближу.
Сейчас открыли.
Вот цифра 36, прям видно на мушке.
In the video, a man holds a live mosquito, and in it we can see imprinted somehow the number 36. The video was posted by Reddit user DankPepeBoy, and he says, "Any theories about what this is? I somehow doubt that the explanation is as simple as someone wrote a tiny 36 on it." Needless to say, internet users were completely divided about this video. Some say that this is a natural pattern, that the number 36 is just a coincidence, while others state that companies have been studying on genetically modifying mosquitoes. So I immediately began to research the topic, and I found tons of articles actually stating that companies indeed are genetically modifying mosquitoes for several reasons. Anyways, in your opinion, what do you think is really going on here? Does this mosquito actually have a number 36 tagged on it? And why so? Or is it just some coincidence, like a pattern in nature where we see the number 36 because we want to? What's your take?
What lurks in the shadows?
If you're a really big fan of camping and spending some time in the woods, you've probably heard strange stories of cryptids, Bigfoot, or unknown entities that sometimes are caught on camera deep in the woods.
Kalian dengar sesuatu? Kalian dengar suara? Kalian dengar suara dan mereka seperti mengikuti di belakang gua, teman-teman.
What is it?
Ya, gua dengar suara.
I'm scared.
Gua dengar suara, teman-teman. Dan arahnya di daerah sini. Astagfirullah!
No! Run!
Now, strange stories of such creatures actually go back to the 13th
freaking
century,
rake.
or maybe even before
I do
that,
not ever
when
wanna
German
make one of
peasants
those.
carved kobold effigies for their homes.
Oh my gosh!
Now, what's
I see
intriguing
kobolds.
about these
That
kobold
is not a kobold.
entities, which nowadays
It's like
we
a little
know
freaking
as
gnome.
goblins, is that they can
Yes.
supposedly shapeshift into a candle of fire, an animal, or a human-like form, and they were said to be
Wow.
seen all over Europe.
And Arkansas. Come on now.
Мы нашли нору кабана.
Holy shnikes! And they didn't even see it!
In this next video, for instance,
Oh,
Justina
snap.
Folger was wandering
Tina.
into a river for a dip in the Tatra Mountains with her boyfriend Peter Kowalski.
Where's
And
this?
all of a sudden they saw what they thought at first was a bear. This is when all of a sudden this thing got up on its own two legs and started running. And they caught it all on
Its
camera,
own
and
two
this
legs?
is what they saw.
Hi, Tina! Look how
Wchodzisz
cute.
do wody?
Chodzę. A ty wchodzisz ze mną?
Nie, ja
Wiadomo?
się połapałem trochę.
Weź Simon.
Ale wiesz, że wchodzi opala się szybciej. Chodź do wody.
Nie, popatrzę na to.
No.
Ale przestań mnie kręcić, tu to... Stadek to się w krzakach.
Hello?
Chryste, Jezus, co to jest?
If we slow down the video, we can see what appears to be a giant ape-like creature that scared Justina and Peter Kowalski. The thing is, if this is Bigfoot or not, it's very hard to tell. But there are other videos out there that portray what appears to be some sort of entity that hides deep within the woods. Entities that are very difficult to even begin to explain what is it that we are seeing.
What the hell was that?
See the move. Look at them. Big ol' eyes.
Yep. I
Big ol'
see it.
eyes, dude. There's a bunch of them.
And this is sort of what happened with Brian and his girlfriend, who have a YouTube channel by the name of Exploring the Unknown. And they usually like to explore the woods, mountains, and abandoned
Explore while you
houses.
can.
In one specific video, Brian and his girlfriend decide to spend the night at a campsite in Michigan, deep in the woods. At first, they spent the entire day preparing the campsite, and late at night, about 1 a.m. in the morning, they went to sleep. This is when they started hearing strange thumping noises just outside their tent, and in a very smart move, in my opinion, they did not leave the tent. This is until 4 a.m. in the morning when they had to go to the bathroom. This is when things got really creepy, and they were very sure that they were not all alone. And this is what happened.
Alright guys, it's like it's like 4 in the morning. I had to get up to pee, and so did Katana. So we pitched a fire over there. Sorry, the quality is not the best, but off in the distance I hear like yelping. I hope you guys can hear it.
I cannot hear it, but Brian keeps saying it's there.
Brian, knock, knock, knock on the wood. Oh, good lord.
Yeah.
He's got
I
the
heard
name.
footsteps over here.
Should I grab my flashlight?
I think another light would not hurt.
I just don't want to leave the car by too long of a distance. Just where I want to go.
Brian and his girlfriend Katana were pretty sure that there was something out there, but they were still in doubt that it might be a critter or some kind of animal. After all, they were hearing these strange noises since they went to sleep at 1 a.m. and they were still going on. They decided to go back to the car to check it out, and things started getting really creepy really fast. They continue recording, and this is what happens.
Just where I want to go.
Here, I'll come with you. Well, it's kind of, I guess, alarming to me that the yelping stopped. Is this you?
Why are you saying? No, I promise. Not intentionally, at least.
I don't think it was a branch.
I kind of think it was because it lines up
Oh
with the branch.
gosh. What is it? Ooh. Better watch out, honey, boo boo child.
Did you hear that?
Don't play with the Sasquatch.
Yeah, that sounded big.
Footsteps by that campsite. Dude, literally just... Huh?
What the?
Should we say something?
Hello?
That had to be another camper.
It's 4 in the morning. Who's gonna be up?
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's weird. It's weird.
Did you see that? Well, neither did Brian or his girlfriend at the time. What appears to be a glowing pair of eyes can be seen hiding just behind one of the trees just next to them. And if you take everything into consideration, the scratch on their car, the footsteps, the strange howling sound, the tree branches, it all comes to a conclusion that they weren't alone. But it's very difficult to say exactly what it is that was lurking in the darkness in that woods. In your opinion, what do you think is going on here? Do you think they caught video evidence of the presence of an entity such as the kobold goblin, or maybe something else? And what would you have done in their situation? If it was me, I would have probably gotten out of there as fast as possible right after identifying that strange scratch on the car. But I'm not too sure. What do you think? And what would you have done?
What would you have done?
In today's world, if you live in a big city, you'll notice that in most places there are several CCTV cameras recording what happens all over for people's security and safety. The thing is, most of the times these cameras are just recording people going from one place to another. But in rare cases, these cameras get to record really strange things. And I guess this is what happened in this next video that we're about to watch that was posted by a Twitter user by the name of TNT John 17. In this video, we can see what appears to be 2 people walking on a road late at night at about 12:45 a.m. in the morning.
It's creepy.
This is when one of the people in the video gets too close to the other one and something completely unexplained happens.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Shadow Protector, attack that dude. Oh yeah. Watch out, dude. It's gonna get you. See? Look at it. Dementor. Look at that. What would you do if you saw that? You know, I know you're not gonna mug anybody, but what if that happened to you? That would be crazy.
Whatever is going on here, it seems that this person who appears to shapeshift on camera is not a person after all. never seen anything like this, but internet users suggest that this could actually be demonic possession caught on camera. Now, demonic possession is considered to be real by exorcists and some psychiatrists. For instance, on July 1st, 2016, Richard Gallagher wrote an article about how he became a scientist who actually helped exorcists identify demonic possession. So this is actually a thing, and it's taken very seriously. And what's really strange about this video is that if we analyze it closely, it doesn't seem to be edited. The person who jumped on the other one saw something and it ran as fast as possible, as if it had seen a ghost, something like that.
Yeah.
So everything in this video suggests that it could be the real deal, but I'm not too sure.
Backpack on,
what would you say?
What the heck? That was weird. I don't think he does have a backpack on. I kind of want to go back and see.
Have you ever heard of the Philosopher's Stone or out-of-place artifacts?
Yes.
Back in the 1400s, a French manuscript seller by the name of Nicolas Flamel developed a reputation of being an alchemist, and a pretty good one. And at the time, he claimed to have discovered the Philosopher's Stone, a stone that was known to have supernatural capabilities. Now, the legend of the Philosopher's Stone began somewhere in ancient Egypt, and it tells of a substance that can turn any metal into gold and grant eternal life. Interesting, isn't it? But what's most interesting is that very little is known about the Philosopher's Stone, its origin, where it came from, and how it all started. Now, even though it's considered a myth or just a bad time story, to this day, researchers and archaeologists are still in search for evidence of this mysterious stone. And just a couple of weeks ago, a treasure hunter by the name of John Ventura was deep in the woods somewhere in Brazil when all of a sudden he came across this mysterious stone. Check this out.
See, the box just looks too new.
Não, tá gelado.
That looks like amber, like, you know, that you find ancient mosquitoes and different
Não,
things in.
tá esquentando, cara. Tá esquentando. Pega pra você ver aí.
It's like old sap from trees that fossilized.
Gente do
Oh,
céu.
it's really hot.
Caraca, meu.
He's even wearing gloves. Good thing he's wearing gloves. Hey, pour some water on it, see what happens.
Olha lá as bolinhas lá, ó.
Ó, tá
Oh,
borbulhando.
is it boiling?
Não é
Wow.
possível, cara. Ó, ficou bem vermelha, cara. Olha isso. Olha, ficou vermelha. Mudou a cor, ó, ficou vermelha.
Mudou a cor, ó. O cameraman pegou legal, ó.
Gente do céu.
While metal detecting somewhere in the woods in Brazil, they came across this wooden box with certain details in gold, and inside of it was this rock. Whatever this thing is, it apparently can change color and temperature when someone touches it or when it comes in contact with water.
Aí, ó, tá voltando a cor. Tá voltando. Ó, gente, tá voltando a cor.
Look at that.
In this particular part of the video, we can see it heating up the water. And then, when they put it back into the box,
Pessoal, nós vamos juntar.
it gets colder and you can clearly see it changing color.
Credo.
Up until this moment, there's not much information on what this mysterious rock could be, but I'm guessing that this is most likely some sort of ancient artifact, maybe even related to ancient myths of underground cities hidden deep within the Amazon forest. After being posted, the video amassed millions of views and caught a lot of attention. Many internet users believe that this could be the Philosopher's Stone, while others state that this is a carnelian crystal, and some others believe that this is red mercury. Tales about this supernatural substance known as red mercury began circulating back in the 1940s, and it was said to be a material so valuable and so dangerous that it was only handled by top-level leaders and scientists. There are many theories about its composition, but to this day, no one really knows what it's made of or if it actually exists. However, there are many videos out there of people who claim to have a hold of this mysterious substance known as red mercury.
That's interesting. Garlic and gold?
In most cases, these artifacts are said to have originated from pharaonic times in ancient Egypt. And in most of the times, these artifacts have very similar supernatural properties.
Something like a phenomenon. See, that's weird. Oh my gosh.
When in contact with water and certain liquids, it heats them up.
It's Amigos, let's go.
It interferes with electronic devices.
Oh, I thought it was hot. Ooh. Oh, wow. Yeah, keep that away from your computer, for real though.
It does not reflect on a mirror.
Excuse me? What? Oh my goodness.
Among many other strange properties, which begs the question, if this is indeed real, is this alien-like artifact actually from Earth? Or was it made by an advanced civilization that may have inhabited this planet somewhere in the past? Now, if the stone that was supposedly found by John Ventura in Brazil is indeed red mercury, I'm not exactly sure. It does seem to have some strange properties. Do you think that this could be the Philosopher's Stone, red mercury, or something else entirely? What's your take?
Take two. Something was watching.
In the shadowed corners of Mesoamerican folklore, there's the legend of the Nagual, a shapeshifter who walks the thin veil between our world and the unseen. Cloaked in the mystique of ancient shamanic rituals, these guardians of the spirit realm possess the arcane ability to transform into animals, usually at night, and in forms both fearsome and sacred. Now, the following video was posted not long ago, and it features what many people believe to be a legit capture of a Nagual. It was recorded by an internet account by the name of Vere in the city of Saltillo, Mexico. They were exploring an abandoned historic center in Saltillo when all of a sudden they felt as if being watched. They looked around and saw nothing. This is until this happened. Check this out.
Estaba trabajando cuando sentí que me estaban viendo.
No, 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 no. No.
Golpeábamos la pared y no se movía. Tampoco parpadeaba.
Okay. Oh, now there's nothing? Oh, there it is. Oh my god, dude, no. F off.
¿Qué rayos será eso?
Oh, yeah. And is that a wall or the floor? Like, what the heck is that?
What looks like a yellow-colored eye creature can be seen staring at them through the wall. They state that it stayed there for more than 5 minutes like this, even though they tried scaring it off. After being posted, many internet users left comments stating that this is possibly a cat or maybe an owl. But most seem to agree that whatever it is, its eyes are too big to be any known animal.
Like part cat and part human?
There were also many cat owners agreeing that its pupils look quite odd. There's a moment in the video that it clearly looks round, just like a human-shaped pupil.
And that's too big
so there's something off about it. And this is, I guess, why loads of people left comments saying that this is possibly a Nagual, a shape-shifting witch that can transform itself into an animal.
I don't know. I think it's the beast.
In this particular video posted by a family in Mexico, we can supposedly see a Nahual shape-shifting real time. At this moment, you can see this thing shape-shifting into a human being. When the man finally shows up, it transforms back into an animal.
The dog's like, I knew.
The next day, Vere did a video update on the location they were at, a historic center in Saltillo, Mexico.
En el centro histórico, y por acá está el cuarto donde estuvimos viendo al animal. Estuvimos más de 5 minutos viéndolo, no hacía ningún tipo de ruido, no maullaba, no parpadeaba después de los golpes en la pared.
The creepy and abandoned historic center only deepens the mystery that this could possibly be a legit encounter with a Nahual. But I want to know your thoughts. Do you think that maybe this is just a cat or an owl, maybe just a coincidence? Or is it the real deal? And what would you have done in this situation?
I would have poked it in the eyeball with a stick or something. The simulation is breaking apart. Is it a glitch in the Matrix?
In the past couple of months, there have been several strange videos surfacing the internet of what appears to be animals glitching or acting up.
We are in.
is this sheep doing?
Hello? Oh, wow. They really like that car. No.
And I guess that in most cases there is a really good explanation, like maybe these animals are just copying and imitating human-like patterns and behaviors for some strange reason. However, there are sinister and creepy occasions where people will actually capture their dogs and cats,
oh my gosh,
sometimes in situations where you can't even begin to
my
explain.
dog Gilly that lived to be like
And this
21,
is exactly what
used to sit
happened
on
with a
stairs
social
like a
media
human. That's
profile by the
crazy.
name of Yasmin. Check this
Quería
out.
grabar al guatón jugando y grabé en fallo en la realidad.
Oh, what is in your hand?
¿Y dónde salió el
Gross.
tequila?
Guatón, pues métete en su camino.
Did you see where the second dog came from? Well,
No,
neither
out
did
of
I,
nowhere.
nor anyone else on the internet.
See,
While
what the
some
hell?
internet users believe that the smaller puppy somehow got entangled between the white dog's legs right at the beginning of the video, others suggest that it was something else entirely. If you watch the video closely and if we replay it in slow motion, you can actually see from the beginning of the video, the smaller puppy is nowhere to be seen. But what makes this even more sinister is that it appears to be more common than one would imagine. In a video posted by Terroris Nocturne, we can see what appears to be a deer trying to cross a highway. This is until this happens. Check this out.
I saw a ghost deer once. Oh my goodness, dude. Oh my goodness. What are you doing? Oh, wow.
If you pay close attention, you can see what appears to be the deer actually crossing from one side to the other, but in a very peculiar way. Watch closely and you see that it appears as if the deer actually was able to go through the road barrier. Now, of course, there's a really good chance that this is just a camera illusion due to the fact that it's dawn or dusk. But taking into consideration that
Dude,
loads of
seriously,
people
I
actually
saw
captured
a
something
ghost
like
deer.
this on
It
camera,
was like the front of a deer
I'm not
and the
too
rest
sure.
of it was a streak of color. It's the weirdest thing I ever saw as far as ghost animals. Wow, that was
What's your
close.
take? Could it be that these animals actually glitched somehow, or is it maybe something else entirely?
And then it runs sideways. Like, what's up with that dog? What's up with that
As
dog,
humans,
man?
we have long been fascinated by the unknown and the mysterious, especially when it comes to creatures of the forest. In many cultures and tribes around the world, the belief in elves, gnomes, and other mystical creatures is not just a myth, but a very real and integral part of their daily lives. These creatures are said to possess some sort of magical power, and in the Western world, these magical powers are considered just a bad time story. However, some experts debate that maybe these beings actually exist, and if they do, they would have to somehow come from some sort of other dimension, a whole different world intertwined with ours.
Vea, muchachos, vea, los que no creen en los duendes, vea. Vean un duende, vea.
Oh, is it up there? Yes, I see it. It's a little person. Hi, little person. Wow. Look at that thing.
Un duende, me acabo de aparecer acá en la Gran Colombiana.
Colombiana. Son of a bitch. Last time I saw a little person was Arkansas. Oh,
It is
that's bad
believed
luck,
by
girl.
some
That's bad
experts
luck.
and researchers that there are at least 11 dimensions that have been already mapped.
Parece que a falha da Matrix ainda continua por aqui. Botar outro pé,
Oh, weird,
anel
weird,
reflexo, como é que
weird.
pode?
What the
É
hell,
um
dude?
espelho comum, gente, ó.
So if half of this is true, it would help explain several different myths and certain videos, like this one that you're about to watch.
What? Just happened.
An Instagram personality by the name of
What the
Ava
crap, dude?
Fav lives in Sonora,
Makes
Mexico,
no sense to me.
and in one
No
certain
sense at all.
day she captured something quite chilling on her CCTV camera in her own garage. As you can see in the video,
Sorry about the
a
glitching
boy
with the
seems to
camera.
be
My son
walking on
was
the
on his
sidewalk
computer.
very close to her garage.
Is this a freaking ghost or what?
And all of a sudden, he
what the
appears
heck?
to crouch
And did you
under
also
the
see how the
house and
leaves
somehow
moved?
disappears
Oh,
completely.
they're already moving. Must be a fan.
At the time, it left many internet users completely baffled and many users also thinking that this could be just a fake, a prank or something like that.
Yeah,
There
the
has
dogs
to
are
be an
confused, too.
explanation.
Wow.
However, in a second
is so
video,
weird.
Ava shows her neighbor's CCTV camera from the same day and the same moment.
What?
And in the video, there's absolutely no one around.
See?
So it kind of doesn't make
ghost
sense. Because in her camera, her dogs were actually reacting to the boy.
Well, yeah, dogs and animals, they can see more than us.
Not only that, in this second video, she goes outside and explains that there's no sewer shaft or nothing like that just next to her house where the boy crouched and simply vanished.
Como les decía anoche, ese es el cristal de la puerta que de día se ve para afuera. Yo estaba aquí parada cuando vi al niño caerse. Y esa es la parte donde el niño desaparece, se deja de ver, como le quieran decir. Me están preguntando que si de casualidad no hay algo ahí. Pues no, chamaco, es que va a haber una puerta, o sea, un portón, un portal, no sé, pues, o sea, no hay nada aquí, pues no hay nada.
So what exactly is going on here? Is this some sort of edit, a fake CGI, or maybe is it the real deal and maybe Ava captured something completely out of this world on camera?
Let's go. This is so creepy.
Now let's just take into consideration for a brief moment the sheer number of CCTV cameras spread throughout the world, probably millions of them. And let's also take into consideration the possibility that maybe we're living in some sort of simulation, and maybe sometimes it glitches. That would mean that there are possibly hundreds of videos just like this one that we just watched. And I guess there are. And one of the most interesting ones, in my opinion, was recorded by Matthew Alvarez, who was working the overnight shift at a medium-sized hotel. And he all of a sudden notices this man just walking in and freezing in position. This is what Matthew recorded. Check this out.
I think this guy froze. Literally.
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Oh, wow. Hello.
What the
As soon as Matthew began recording this bizarre event, notice this woman in the camera below. She's approaching the hotel. Now things are gonna get weirder. Check this out.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, he is literally there. It's not the camera that's frozen, it's him. There he is.
Freaking weird, man.
This dude is still.
Then he moves. Once the door's open, he moves.
According to an email that Matthew sent to me, he writes, I thought it was a camera defect, but I went outside to check and he was just there, frozen. I went back into the office and started filming. And what boggled my mind is that those doors are supposed to remain open if there's someone there just like he was. And they just closed behind him as if there was no presence at all. He also stayed there for quite a while like that. And I was very confused. As soon as the lady walks into frame, you can see the doors open. And those specific doors won't open at that.
Alright guys, I just have to say goodnight to our Spreaker peeps. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. If you want to catch the rest of the show, please go over to our YouTube and we'll watch this video together. Now thanks so much for joining me this weekend for We Are Paradox Mania's Paranormal Forum, as well as Storytime with me, TessaTNT. I've had a wonderful time. I can't wait to do it next week. So, I'm clueless. I don't know what the hell's going on, so we'll all be surprised when it does actually happen. Anyways, yeah, it's on my Facebook, Spreaker, YouTube, Twitch, all my peeps out there. Thank you so much again for joining me on We Are Paradox Mania's Late Night in the Rockies. I had a wonderful time. Let's do this again pretty soon. Don't forget, you guys, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Parabox Media, because without you, there is no us. Sorry about the loud music. Holy shit, Nikes. Anyways, night-night, love night, take care of my use. Please don't work too hard this weekend. And I'll see you back here, same time, same crazy-ass place. Thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. Love you. Night-night, love you, night. Cool beans, man, cool beans. Sorry, almost done. T-minus 15 seconds and counting. And then we'll get back to our old video. Thanks, I'm done. Appreciate you. Thanks so much, my speaker peeps. Alright, let's go. Let's get to this. Let's get back to our video, shall we? Mind-blowing video.
That distance either, so everything that happened in that particular moment was super weird.
Was super weird, I'm telling you.
In your
Super
opinion,
freaking
how do
weird.
we explain this situation? It's not just the man that froze that makes things weird. The electronic door should have somehow detected him. And not only that, it's as if the man actually knew that there was someone approaching from a distance. What is going on in this video?
I don't think he even knows. I don't think he does. What do you think? Unexplained events in the Appalachian Mountains. Come on, y'all, let's go.
Being a vast area with large portions of dense, remote forests, the Appalachian Mountains provides the perfect cover for a serial killer or an ill-intentioned person to lurk in the shadows. The rugged terrain, isolated trails, and limited cell phone reception can actually make it easy for such individuals to evade any type of detection. And I guess that this is sort of what happened to Katie Rementer while she was staying at a lodge with her family in Greenville, Maine. Now, Greenville is a very small town with a population of about 2,000 people, and it's only a 24-mile distance walk from the Appalachian Trail, which makes Greenville the perfect stop for hikers.
I'm hiking. I swear somebody's following me. I could hear them like right behind me. Every time I look back, there's nobody there.
Explore. Huh? What? What?
Look at you, girly.
What is that?
What the hell is that? I will kill again.
That was not there last night.
No, that was there last night.
It was a very
Good
cold
job,
night, and
man.
Katie and her family were having dinner with a couple of friends at a nearby restaurant, when all of a sudden Katie notices a man standing outside and staring and nodding at her. At the time, she kind of shrugged it off, and after having dinner, they went back to the lodge. And while tucking the kids to bed, she starts hearing someone pacing back and forth just outside their room. Completely freaked out, she checks the window, and this is what she sees.
What's a crack? No. F that, man. Nope. Nope.
In the video,
Holy
the
shit.
figure of a creepy man can be seen approaching Katie's lodge. He then proceeds
Forget
to
about it.
stop and just stand there, staring at her window. And at this moment, Katie realizes that this is the same man from the restaurant. Not knowing exactly how to proceed and what to do next, Katie stays there, quiet, observing the man's every movement.
Please excuse me while I never sleep again. Exactly.
It didn't take long before Katie and her husband realized that they would have to call the cops. So they call the lodge owner, who actually calls the cops, and this is what happens.
What happens? Already made the call. Just fucking standing there, dude. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. How come? Oh my gosh.
The lodge owner and the police promptly show up and talk to the man, who states that he's actually staying in the lodge next door. After coming to the conclusion that he wasn't doing anything wrong, they leave, and the man just continues there, staring at Katie's life.
What the fuck was he doing?
At this point, you can imagine how freaked out Katie and her family were, but not knowing exactly what to do next, they stay there for the night. The next day, they call the police and find out that the man actually told them that he was a schizophrenic. Now, even if this is the case, I wonder what would have happened to Katie and her family if they hadn't called the cops. Not only that, when the police arrives, he changes his behavior completely, as if he knows exactly what he's doing. So I'm not exactly sure if he was telling the truth entirely. But when it comes to strange encounters in the Appalachian Mountains, it doesn't stop there. The following video takes place in Dudleytown, Connecticut, just a few miles away from the Appalachian Trail. It was on June 17, 2006, that a family that lived near Chase Avenue started noticing strange patterns of shadow figures lurking in the woods behind their property. Thinking that this could be a burglar or a person with bad intentions, they tried to capture it on camera several times without any success. But on one cloudy afternoon, this happened.
Dude, what's a crack? That's creepy. Creepy. Freaky creepy. Creepy freaky.
Hi, it's me again. I'm just calling just to let you know. I've seen that thing again in the backyard. I've got the camera on. I'm trying to capture it. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to see if I can get it. Anyway, give me a call when you get this message. Bye.
I'm still alive.
After leaving an eerie voice message at his wife's cell phone, he runs downstairs to get a better angle of the woods behind his property. And this is what happens.
Mountains.
No.
Oh wow.
What is that?
Oh wow. It's a shadow peep.
No.
Shadow peep.
What the is that?
What the bugger?
Yeah, it's me. I've just seen that thing. I've actually got it on camera.
Wow.
I'll show you when you get home.
Did you see that? What actually looks like some sort of translucent shadow figure can be seen crossing the woods behind their property. Whatever this thing is, it left the property owner completely baffled. After being posted to YouTube, many internet users seem to agree that this is the real deal. Not only that, it seems that Dudleytown is actually surrounded by strange stories of paranormal events and mysterious and unexplained deaths and murders that supposedly took place in this very small town close to the Appalachian Trail. Now, even though this isn't the highest quality video ever, if we slow-mo and zoom in on the video, you can clearly see what looks like a translucent figure walking in the woods.
It's a ghosty.
Could it actually be that this is a legit shadow person caught on camera? And could this video help prove that the Appalachian Mountains are indeed haunted,
Look at how it's
like
got
many
front legs and
believe?
back legs.
What's your take?
I don't know. It's freaking weird, man. What's your take?
This is it for now, but there are more videos. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on for more videos like this. And I'll see you guys again.
Dude, seriously, go to his channel and Mr. LaFleur, that is impossible. He's got 1.629 subscribers and he just does a really, really epic job with his videos. But yes, please subscribe to him. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight for story time. I am really loving this new book. I just love the characters. I love their personalities and different things like that. I'm so glad that our Englishmen got out of that prehistoric time and came back to more recent times, anyways. Let's do it again, as we did with your Spreaker peeps. Thank you to all of our friends on Weird Paradox Media's Late Night Rockies, KPNL Radio, Facebook, eTalk, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. I did have an epic time, and it was super cool. Sorry for the internet glitches. Hopefully we'll be done with Century Stink soon and have some freaking lightning fast internet going on shortly. Dave putting in like different cables, etc. It's supposed to be lightning fast. It's supposed to be epic. Hopefully it's way better than Century Stink, because I've tried to get my my modem replaced. Even though I lease it, they're not working with me. But yeah, I apologize for the glitches and all that good stuff, you know. I'm a smart ass, and a Century Stink knows it. Anyways, don't forget, you guys, we are all in this together. Together we can make the world a bit better, and together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there's no us, there's no me, there's no the show. So thanks so much again for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. I love you. And I hope that your week turns out great. Until next time, 9911 Light, take care of my news, and I will see you back here. Same crazy time, same damn ass crazy place. I love you. Take care of you, yourselves, and your families. Bye now. Bye.